Well, hi there, folks. This is another video in a series of videos that I'm doing with my colleague, Haroon. We've been looking at various marketing automation platforms that you can integrate with WordPress. This video, we're going to be talking about Fluent CRM. So what I hoped to be able to do, Haroon, is just talk generally about Fluent CRM at the beginning of this, and then maybe show them how easy it is to use with a learning management system. How does that sound, Haroon?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, well, he's up for it. He seems chirpy is the right word. He seems happy and chirpy. Let's see if that will continue after a half hour with me. Oh, he's got fingers crossed. He needs them crossed. We need more than that. Right. So, Haroon, I'm going to throw it over to you. So, first of all, what's your thoughts about Fluent CRM? It's a new platform that came on the market. Well, I say new. I think it's been almost a year now, hasn't it, since its launch? But compared to some other platforms, that's still quite young. And they've been updating it. I would say myself that the team behind it are quite experienced when it comes to these type of plugins. You know, they're the same people behind Fluent Forms. But obviously trying to build out a CRM product is of the highest technical difficulty. So, but they seem to be a powerful team. So, would you agree with that? And what's your thoughts?
I completely agree. And they seem to have done a brilliant job with it. And to give a bit of a background on WordPress's CRM ecosystem, initially there was just one plugin that could have been considered as
just one thing. You need to get your mic just a little bit closer to your mouth, because you got a little bit of an echo. You must be in a big room. That's all I got to say.
Yes. It is a rather big room with not all the furniture in here yet. Right. So that could be the reason.
That's a bit better. That's a lot better.
Okay. Let me just see if I've got the right. Yes, it is. Okay. So initially there was just one CRM plugin that could have been considered as a half decent option to use on WordPress, and that was Zero BS CRM. And we haven't covered it in our sessions yet.
No, I'm totally up for it, but I know very little. They were bought out by Automatic, weren't they? About 6 months ago, weren't they? But it looks like and I think they've integrated. I'm not sure, but I think they're integrating it with Jetpack as well, aren't they? But I'm not totally sure.
That's all going on in the background. So that was initially it appeared to be a very decent option. As like when I first came across it, I wanted to set it up for as the CRM for my company, Happy Cloud, and I was very excited. Boy, oh boy, I'm not going to have third-party CRM. It's all going to be integrated right into my site. So I bought it. And I started setting it up, and from day one, I started to see several weaknesses, especially. It was very powerful as a CRM, and it had some pretty nifty integrations, but some other integrations were half-baked, and its marketing automation aspect was as bare bones as it gets.
Funny enough, sorry to interrupt, Haroon, but funny enough, that was the same situation with my ex-wife. She, after trying me out, she saw several problems.
So it's the two of us.
All right. I'm sorry. I just couldn't resist that,
No worries.
Haroon.
No worries.
No, there we go.
So, yeah, mm, like within a week or so of trying to make it work the way I wanted in terms of automations first and foremost, and some integrations, I was frustrated, and I was like, "What have I bought?" Still thought I'd give it a shot. I didn't get it refunded. I put in some requests, some feature requests, some enhancement requests of existing features. And to their credit, they did work on some. They helped me out with some custom code for the others, but it just wasn't cutting it. The product just didn't seem refined enough. And when I groundhog and I was skeptic after this experience. I was like, maybe WordPress just isn't the platform. Maybe the right kind of companies aren't building a CRM on it yet, because they build on a SaaS rather than a plugin sort of model. But I took the leap of faith after seeing some stellar reviews, and oh boy, I was really happy with Groundhog. It had its shortcomings, as I've mentioned in the previous some of the previous sessions. So it does have its shortcomings, and it's a small team starting off with a big vision to replace the likes of Infusionsoft, that is Keep Now, and ActiveCampaign. That's a big, just a young fellow in his late teens or early 20s. So that's like, taking on the world. But they have come a very long way, and a few shortcomings, a few major shortcomings that I saw in it. One of them was addressed just a couple of weeks back by Adrian himself. He finally added a particular in one of their add-ons that I'd been asking for a while, but then there are still some missing. But then it wasn't a disappointment per se. It was a refreshing experience. Sort of rekindled my faith in WordPress being a viable framework to build a CRM on, which I was losing after trying out Zero-BS. So that's why I don't think we should cover Zero-BS. And what Automatic saw in it to buy it. I mean, if I were Automatic, I would have had every reason to buy Groundhog instead of Zero-BS.
Well, they have got a bit of a track record of buying distress properties. To me, sometimes it's more of it. They buy the plugin, but one of the factors is they're buying the developer or the development team. So who knows? So let's go on to Fluent CRM. So how do you see Fluent's come on? How do you see it, and how do you see its strengths and weaknesses compared to Groundhog? Because there is no perfect product out. First of all, we're not having a bash at Groundhog. But because the reality is, sometimes there's such an exceptional product, it hardly has any faults, but that's extremely rare. Normally, one plugin to another has strengths and it has weaknesses, doesn't it?
Yes. So when I learned about Fluent CRM, I was excited. As opposed to when I learned about Groundhog, when I was skeptic because of experience with Zero-BS. But due to the great experience with Groundhog, even more excited when I learned about such an accomplished team. Shah Jahan, he's a like if something can be built on WordPress, probably that guy and his team can build it and build it well. So after seeing how they started off with the Fluent forms, and in very little time, sorry, let me put my phone on silent so that we don't have any interruptions. So after seeing how quickly they built up Fluent, very viable alternative to the likes of Gravity Forms and Ninja Forms, isn't an easy task to do, because Gravity Forms and Ninja Forms did that and built that many integrations like half a decade or more than that, like a decade. And they did it they just sped through all of those tasks on their Trello board within a few months. And I was like, wow, these guys are onto something. So yeah, when that team came up with the CRM, I was like, yes, this is definitely out. The reason I didn't buy it was because for all of my clients, I was way too tied into Groundhog. We had built a lot of custom integrations for the specific niches that my clients were in. And we had sort of tailored Groundhog to those niches as well in certain ways, which was a challenge. But then when it came, when I had the opportunity of working with you and, trying out Fluent CRM, I was like, let's give it a shot finally. And delighted. It's refreshing. It's got a pretty good UI, UX. The funnel building experience itself, I like that in Groundhog better than Fluent CRM. Because Fluent CRM tries to walk you through the process way too much. And in an attempt to provide you UX, it ends up providing you with the worst UX for doing that. Too much hand-holding.
I totally agree with you there. When it actually becomes the actual building of the funnel, I think Groundhog's morphology is better than Fluent CRMs. I think you're totally spot on there. But what are some of the strengths of Fluent CRM compared to Groundhog?
In general, the UI is more refreshing, and the team behind it is known for building integrations quickly. So there's that. Other than that, the feature set is like, it has huge overlaps, and it's hard to really point out advantages of one over the other than the advantage of Groundhog in terms of the funnel building experience that's there. And also, those who are used to building funnels in the ActiveCampaign or Infusionsoft way, for them, this is like curve. You have that flow chart format, you have conditionals, you have actions, and you have triggers. All three components. And the whole branching out concept of funnels, visually branching out. In Groundhog, it can branch out, but it would appear linear to you. And certainly, if you use conditionals, like you use one benchmark that has a conditional of tag applied here and another over here, so it would still work as conditional, but it would appear as a single. And funnels are supposed to be vertical, so that's why I prefer Groundhogs.
Well, yeah, I like a guy. I totally agree with you when it comes to UX, and I totally think Groundhog. But I don't know if we're correct, or it's just I think you're much more experienced about the actual building of these funnels than I am. I've just got a little bit. You're a expert. But I totally agree and lean with you that the actual interface, I prefer it much better. But I think you're also spot on. If you've come from a SaaS-based system like ActiveCampaign or Infusionsoft, you're going to feel much more at home with Fluent CRM, aren't you?
Absolutely. That is the biggest advantage to me, because some clients, it's hard to convince them to work in a linear funnel because to them, it's not just a marketing funnel. It's like it's a workflow, and with several split decisions, and to them, a flow chart more than a funnel makes more sense. So yeah, it works perfectly for them. One of the things that I don't really like about Fluent CRM is it introduces lists again, which many would feel more comfortable with, because they come from a background where they work with lists, tags both. But to me, they're redundant. One or the other works better, because every list works like a tag, and every tag essentially like a list. So why have both? Why give that decision fatigue to the user when you can just give them either lists or tags, and they can use the tag for the purpose of building a list or for a segmentation purpose within a list. So to me, that's efficient way of doing things, in which again Groundhog shines. It has no list; it only has tags.
Well, I think you focused on the main weakness of Fluent CRM, and it's not exactly. That's the wrong way of putting it. In a way that it's not exactly a weakness. I'm struggling for the right word. It's a decision that they have made, which you, especially if you've had a lot of people coming from MailChimp and some other quasar, because I haven't utilized or have a client that's actively using MailChimp for over 18 months. So I don't know how far MailChimp has progressed with their marketing automation activities. When I last looked at it, it was a really messy, it was a messy interface, and they had some good bits. But when you tried to start using them, they just didn't work properly. But I don't know how far. Maybe you can give some insight about that. But
I agree.
But the main thing is, if you come from, I'm going to use the incorrect term, really, a more traditional email marketing platform, you're going to be used to lists, aren't you?
Yes.
But to really get the power of marketing automation and be able to use it in the most effective, most powerful way, you really got to get your head around tagging and use tagging, haven't you?
Yes. And their implementation, the way I see it, it's like both work the same way. You can choose to send a broadcast to a list or to a tag. You can, segment using a list or segment using a tag. So it's in a way a good thing. Yes, as you mentioned, as a familiarity concept for people, like just a terminology familiarity concept for people coming from platforms that use lists and tags. To my own personal workflows, even though I come from the same background of using Infusionsoft, of using Keep, Infusionsoft is Keep, ActiveCampaign and MailChimp and Campaign Monitor and whatnot. So they all have lists, but I've gotten so used to the concept of having tags and using tags as lists that it just feels like something redundant to me. But hey, it doesn't hurt to have it, and you can choose whether or not to use it. That's up to you.
So just to clarify there, and I'm speaking for you, but you soon put me right. So what you're saying is they've got the list base and the tagging, but both, what you've seen, their tagging system works pretty good. So
yes,
as long as you know, do you? I should know this, but my memory's failing me. It's age, see, Haroon. So in Fluent CRM, do you have to choose one or the other when you're setting up a campaign? Is it going to be list by, or can you swap around a bit?
You can.
Well, so you can make a real confusing pile of nonsense then.
Yes, true.
Yeah. So one of our recommendations probably is that if you're going to use a list metaphor, keep it a list, or you should really, the best solution is start off with tagging. But the worst scenario is probably mixing the two together in one campaign, isn't it?
Oh yes, but like it all depends on your workflow. Indeed.
Right. So do you now, when it comes to integrating Fluent CRM with Lifter LMS and LearnDash, what have you seen? Do you think they offer some reasonable integrations with both these platforms?
Oh yes, they do. The funnels have the right benchmarks, and that's pretty much what you need. The actions are there already by default. Actions like sending emails, actions whatever you'd expect from a solution like this. But yeah, they offer us the right benchmarks for course enrollment and all, and we can use them to trigger the automations. And apart from that, when enroll in a course, that's something that I have to look into. So we can maybe do it live together. Whether the way Groundhog lets you add and remove tags in the interface of the course itself. When you're building a course, you can set it to add or remove tags when someone enrolls in it without having to set up a funnel for it. So let's see if Fluent CRM offers the same experience with Lifter LMS.
Well, if you want to share your screen,
yes.
maybe we can walk through some of the things you like and some of the things because you've been playing with it, haven't you? So you should be able to share your screen now, Haroon.
Okay, let me do that. Share screen.
And in some ways, I'm sure Adrian from Groundhog won't agree with us, but I think it's great that you've got two excellent platforms now to choose from, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And I think there's nothing like a bit of effective competition to motivate a company to keep improving their product, is there?
Absolutely. And that's already happening. Adrian was pushed to really start working on their upcoming major release, the 3.0 version. And that would include a more familiar funnel building experience for those who want it as well. That happened immediately after release of Fluent CRM. And so yeah, healthy competition in the space. Previously, the only competition was from outside of WordPress, because within Zero BS just didn't come remotely close to what Groundhog was capable of in terms of automations. But with Fluent CRM, for the first time, they had real competition in the WordPress ecosystem. So yeah, it's a good thing. It's
funny enough, I understand why him and his team are doing that, but actually, I disagree. I disagreed. I never when I was having some conversation, an agent ever brought it up because it was his baby, his product, and I just didn't think it was appropriate, Haroon. But I never agreed why the linear. What I thought he needed to do was that in the icons that were utilised in the. I know this sounds minor, but I think it's still really important. I think in the actual icons, fonts choices, colors, the actual interface looked a little bit below par compared to some, compared to Fluent CRM, it looks a little bit rough on the edges, but the actual doing the actual funnels in a linear process, I don't really think I can understand why they're going to offer a interface that can give you the experience of ActiveCampaign, because we've covered that with Fluent CRM. But I actually, you and I like the linear way that
I love it.
But I just think in a kind of interface design and that, it looks a bit rough on the edges. Do you think I'm on the right track there?
Yes, I agree. And if you've seen the 2.5 preview, they are addressing exactly those things in the funnel building interface in that. So they're adding more visual cues, more text cues, more better iconography to help you see that instead of just benchmarks, now it says, like it makes whole sections that say, if this happens, and then you add the benchmarks, and then they have like, then do this, and then you have actions. So and the colors and the overall coordination, overall placement of those benchmarks and actions are better, more visually appealing, and more intuitive. So yeah, like I'd prefer that they stick with that. But let's see how 2.5 and 3.0 turn out.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So at the present moment, if you watch, well, you will be watching this either on Facebook or on the WP-Tonic YouTube channel. So you'll be able to, you're seeing this. So Haroon's just logged in. So the other thing is, compared to Groundhog, Fluent, what is the graphs and the information that both platforms give when it comes to data connected to a campaign? Are they very similar, or is there one that particularly you think's offers more information and a better interface?
Groundhog's reporting system is very, very robust. I really like what they've done when they did their big overall, big overhaul of the entire reporting system. And I think it was 2.3 or 2.2, somewhere around that. And it helps you build and view all sorts of statistics and reports it can get overwhelming, in fact, to an extent, to a degree, what you can do in terms of reporting. But then clients demand all sorts of reports. That's a good thing to have. That's a good problem to have. When it comes to Fluent, to be honest, I haven't yet deployed it on a live site where actually playing around with the reports would be something I do. So on just this test install, that's for playing around with it and to really see where it shines, where it lacks. I haven't really had the chance to really, because on a test site, I haven't sent any broadcasts. It's just to test the funnel building experience and the overall general integrations with platforms. But once I do, we will revisit it in one of our future and then discuss in detail.
I've got no, I'm looking for the right word. I've got no, I'm struggling here, problem with Groundhog. We've been looking at using Fluent just because it's just a bit easier with the smaller clients to concentrate on just utilizing one system, because a lot of the work you're doing will be the same work. So if you can, but I think obviously you haven't delved into the reporting side of Fluent, but I wouldn't be surprised. I would imagine when it comes to actual UX design, it's probably clean. But when it comes to actual functionality, I wouldn't be surprised that it isn't as powerful as Groundhog, because Groundhog has been on as what time period? I think Groundhog has been on the market over 2 years. It's probably approaching 3 years. Would I be correct?
Roughly 3 years, yes.
Yes, because time alarmingly goes quick. Where we're talking about Fluent CRM, even, but with Fluent CRM, they've got a much bigger development team, though. Would I am correct about that, aren't I?
Yes, you are.
And obviously they've got experience with other plugins, i.e. Fluent Forms,
yes,
and some other plugins. So shall we wrap it up? Can you just say, shall we wrap this up, and then next time we can show the reporting, and maybe you can show more of the integration of Fluent with Lifter LMS. And obviously the other thing with Lifter LMS, recently they brought out their 5.0 upgrade, which also includes a form builder, but it is based on Gutenberg. At some stage, probably in the next year, I and WP-Tonic will revisit, are we, when it comes to future clients, going to stay with Elementor, or are we going to go fully native with Gutenberg? Because it is getting close to being able to being, I would be happy to utilize it on a live website. We would probably keep all the existing clientele on Elementor because I think it's still a great platform. It's that on, just to finish off, I don't know what your thoughts about that. That's a tricky one in its own right. You know, is it time to really start looking at Gutenberg, or are you best to stay with something like Elementor? What are your thoughts about that, just to finish off this video?
It's interesting that you mentioned a year, because just one of these past few days, within this past week, I was thinking the exact same thing, that Gutenberg one more year to mature, because by then, like the upcoming full site building experience, header and footer builder, would be out and about in the wild for at least around 6 to 8 months, because it's going to come in any of the new upcoming WordPress releases. We've gotten really close to the full site editing experience. So as soon as that's out, we're going to have some nifty integration platforms for especially headers, because let's say you want to use BuddyBoss header with Elementor, it already has the BuddyBoss menu component where you see the notifications drop down, the cart icon, like some of the, and your profile icon. So that's already there. For Gutenberg, the header builder isn't out yet, so third-party plugins haven't really invested into building components for the headers yet.
I think next month when we do our 2 videos together, I think 2 subjects would be to look at FluentCRM a bit more, maybe also have a quick look over Lifter LMS and their version 5, and they've got a custom fields add-on plugin as well, Haroon. And our second video of the month, it could be the first or second, maybe the first, because we give you more time to look at Fluent, is in our first video for next month. We look at BuddyBoss in a bit of detail.
Oh, yes.
Are you up for that?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Because the biggest build I've ever done in WordPress has been built on BuddyBoss. And it involves a plethora of other tools, including for the LMS, the events calendar for an event management system, CPT, UI, and ACF for lots of custom post types. We've got like 9 or 10 different content types in that site. WooCommerce for e-commerce, MemberPress for memberships, with a lot of custom coded experiences in terms of workflows, optimization cart flows for the checkout, optimization system for courses and products, Printful for their third-party printing and drop shipping, and something else for podcasts. We're using another plugin. I don't recall its name right now. Seriously Simple Podcasting for podcasts, and GroundHogg as the CRM and marketing automation solution, tying everything together. GamiPress for gamification, Automator WP for some things that weren't possible using GroundHogg, and Affiliate WP for their affiliate program.
Yeah.
Boy, oh boy, it's like
it's all good stuff. Then it's all good, all stuff that you can get as part of your hosting package on WP-Tonic. I like to point out he's using all, and this is before he came on the WP-Tonic team, but you're utilizing all the things that we provide on our hosting, Haroon. But just to finish off, I have a real love-hate relationship with BuddyBoss because I have to spend like almost half an hour trying to explain what BuddyBoss is. You know, basically, if you want that look that they show, we can give you that look. We've actually we had some initial complaints. So if they, but you're going to have to install the theme and the plugin to get that look. So you can't have two child themes. Then if you want your own a more customized homepage, I have to explain, well, that's totally achievable, but you have to use Elementor and make a template, a custom homepage, and you can customize the menu, but be using. So I have to explain all that to them.
Yes.
And the reality is that it's a theme and a plugin. And I normally have to explain it 3 times because I tend to lose the client trying to explain it. So that leads to a love-hate relationship I have with it. Is that making any sense, Haroon?
It is because the clients expect that the default install, like you just download, activate it, and it's going to turn their site into their demo site. That's simply not how it works.
No, not at all. So saying it is fair to say that when it comes to clients, it's a little bit misleading, isn't it?
Well, I'd say the clients have unrealistic expectations over here.
That's a good way
because
of putting it. Never. They would never have that, would they, Haroon?
Because a vendor would, of course, present you with a very refined look of the final product you can achieve using their offerings. Like when you go to a showroom for a kitchen, they're not going to show you that you're going to have to put all the tiles together, put all the appliances in. They're going to show you in the showroom, but you can't just have that exact built kitchen replicated at your home without the carpenter and the mason and all coming in and building it. It's not like you can just buy it and get it installed at your home without any labor involved. So yes, it has to be a labor of the professionals who use those tools to build you the final product.
Let's wrap. We've got another 5 minutes because let's make this 45 minutes. So when it comes to when it comes to BuddyBoss, have you had through the site that you've mentioned, or have you had any use or worked with their mobile offering? Because they've got this new offering, haven't they, BuddyBoss, where they produce, I think it's live now, isn't it? Where they you pay them a certain amount of money every month, and they provide an app for is it iPhone and Android?
Both, yes.
Have you had any? Have you been using that for your client at all, or anything, or have you still not had the pleasure of trying to integrate that with a client?
On our roadmap, but the client had some delays in launching the platform. Like it's built, but there's some content still that still remains for them to provide. And so getting to start working on the app is being delayed from their end, but it is on the roadmap. I haven't had the pleasure yet, but I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, it's really interesting, and I think it was interesting. I have not had to attempt to try and integrate that so far, but I think as a product, as a secondary product launch, I really think it's quite interesting, isn't it? And I think the BuddyBoss team is really evident. I've tried to persuade one of the founders to come on my podcast, and they did say yes, and then they backed out. because they've been really, really busy. So one day, hopefully, I will get. They do seem a very experienced team, and they definitely seem to know what they're doing, don't they?
Oh, yes. If there's one thing I'd want them to do, it would be like whenever I'm looking for documentation for accomplishing one thing or the other, their old boss theme, which is like now redundant and retired, its documentation comes up, it's all over the place. So they need out. We're looking for buddy boss documentation, not boss theme documentation.
Well, that whole
Other than
thing,
that,
that's one criticism, because they have tended,
yes.
when it comes to the new theme, the new setup, they've really put most of the information on their YouTube channel, and that's fine. But you do also need to support it with really good written documentation, and there have been. I'm sure they're totally aware of this. Hopefully, they do plan to resolve it. But their written documentation for the new platform is almost non-existent. And
actually, it does exist.
Oh, it does.
The issue is, and whatever exists is actually rather decent, or at least better than half decent. But the issue is, out of 10 articles that you find in the old boss theme, so that one buddy boss article that you're looking for is buried, and you just quit.
That's what
looking into it after 4 or 5.
Yeah, thank you for pointing out, because that's what I meant, but I wasn't explaining it very well. So thanks for doing that. That's what I meant. It's really, and I haven't got the knowledge that you've got, but I'm a pretty experienced web developer. I haven't done any real hardcore development for the past 4 or 5 years. I've been running my business, but I know the swings and roundabouts, and that is the problem, because it's all mixed up with this old documentation and that about child themes and that, and I have to try and I have possible clients that have gone to their website and done a dive, and it's totally confused them even more because they've got all this old material all over the place. So it's a bit of a cock up, really, isn't it?
Yes, it is. But one good thing about, like, if you want to write code for their platform, which I often end up doing, having to use one action hook to insert content here, one filter to modify some output there. So the original BuddyPress and BBPress documentation, their entire hooks, actions, and filter reference, both first party and third party, that works like a charm for Buddy Boss as well.
Well, funny enough, John Jacoby, the actual original developer, BBPress, and I always forget the other one. He's a personal friend of mine. So, so he's, he works for Pippin Williamson now. And he's a great developer and just a great guy. And thanks for pointing that out, because he always made sure that ability was always inbuilt. But like I say, he's a great developer and he's a personal friend of mine. So, I think we'll wrap it up. We've had a bit of a wandering journey a bit, but I think we've covered a lot of really good stuff. And like I say, next month, folks, the first video I'll be doing with Haroon, we've agreed it's going to be about Buddy Boss. So you definitely don't want to miss that, because I'll probably learn some things from Haroon. And then the second video, we're going to delve into Fluent CRM and Lifter 5.0 in a little bit more depth. We'll see you next month, folks. Bye.
Bye-bye.